have sound meters. Perfect. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, coming back from upgrading my main system monolith to an M2 drive. Finally making use of that drive for the first time since building the system in 2016. I've gotten most of everything working since changing over to the new system drive, fresh install of Windows, which fixed some of the gremlins that was going on with my last install, which I think was my original install going all the way back to... What was it? I think it was that was my original install going all the way back to when I built the system, so got a couple of years out of it. Probably better than a lot of folks. But so I did pretty well, but yeah, so that fixed everything, but there's a couple of things that I still haven't gotten working yet. So got to figure out the MS Office licensing for the streaming account, which is not tied to my Microsoft account. And I also need to, well, go through all of my OBS templates and make sure that the audio sources are explicitly declared after streaming for 20 minutes with no audio from the microphone making it out to the bleep bleep stream. Some folks came and went, and like, what's this idiot doesn't know what he's doing. Well, it's just one of those things I'm not as experienced in terms of presentations, which is why I do this stuff. So that way, you know, I can make the dumb mistakes and learn how everything works. So we have a couple of things. That's how you learn too. Sometimes you'll learn by looking like an idiot and then vowing to do everything you can to not look like an idiot ever again in that respect. And life is basically just a bunch of I'm going to be less of an idiot next time, and then hoping you actually are less of an idiot next time. So we got a lot of things to talk about. Stuff related to the multimedia meta and stuff related to, by the way, the microphone, is it bugged? Okay, good. Don't tempt fate here. I don't know if the USB going into this might have been in this too long and it's gotten a little bit faded or something like that. Anyways, so now there's actually some sound. We have a bunch of things to talk about. For the multimedia meta, the Stream Hatchet year in review is out for how streaming did overall in 2020. Needless to say, with the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything, streaming and YouTube videos have done incredibly well. I know the YouTube video part from people actually who work at YouTube, who we talked on Twitter about a few things here and there, and I've, you know, gotten some confirmation that the streaming boom that happened last year has also happened with videos. Bottom line, there are more people trying out some form of multimedia now than in a very, very long time because of what has gone on. So we have that. And as a result of all of this fiddling around with Monolith, as well as what's going on with CES and particularly the discussions from AMD, we have to talk about Monolith 2. So I think what I'm going to do is, now that I've got the darn sound working, going to do two streams, actually. We're going to talk about the Stream Hatchet report and everything related to streaming, the meta, and multimedia. And then we're going to switch over to talking about the computer stuff later on in the night, towards closer to sunrise. It's important to realize, though, when it comes to YouTube in particular, again, you cannot come to YouTube with a Twitch mentality. Even calling yourself a streamer is a stupid idea on YouTube. And I intend on making good on these ideas and these declarations in 2021 on my YouTube channel. After the next season of the Wacky World of MultimediaJay gets underway, and I've got some ideas for videos already, particularly with relations to using optical media in the 2020s. One of the big topics I'm throwing around. As part of what I've been doing to upgrade some software recently, I actually used the Blu-ray burner that I've had in Monolith for years. So probably use my optical drive more in the last 12 hours than I have in the past 3 years. So maybe even 5 years. I think optical media is totally underrated, and people think that it's an old, obsolete technology, but they really just don't know how to use it in today's context with so many alternatives out there. But just like with, say, Twitch versus YouTube, you gotta play things to their strengths and realize what you're gonna do where. As part of bringing this computer back with the new system drive, I actually installed Slobs in addition to regular OBS. I'm thinking because Slobs has better integration with YouTube streaming now, I'm thinking of using Slobs for YouTube streaming and regular OBS for Twitch. So bounce between the platforms, by bouncing between OBS. Whatever. Bouncing between the platforms by bouncing between OBS. Say that 5 times fast. I don't know. So there is a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about. And now we've got the sound working. Let's get to it and actually sound like something, as opposed to that folks saw earlier. I was by the way, for those of you that don't read lips. All right. Read my lips. No new taxes. Really old joke, too. So let's leave that in the history bin where it belongs. So, Stream Hatchet. Stream Hatchet has their 2020 report out, and it talks about, this is not the one I'm looking for. The one I'm looking for is Streamlabs and Stream Hatchet, Q4 2020, for the ratios between hours watched and hours streamed, those numbers that I'm always comparing between YouTube and Twitch. And Facebook, too, might as well throw them in while we're at it. But based on the results I'm seeing in this preliminary report, Facebook's growth has stalled, and it's YouTube and Twitch that are growing, and, you know, that's the rivalry that's heating up between all the big platforms, between red and purple. Blue is kind of stalled off to the side. And I think there's a couple of systemic reasons why Facebook isn't going to grow until they fundamentally change a lot of things about Facebook to make a platform like that viable. Don't know if Facebook's going to go the way of Mixer, but quite frankly, they need to change some very important things in order to get anywhere with Facebook gaming. Until they make those changes, I don't expect them to see any sustained success for any length of time. They're just going to more desperately try to get people to join up and get some big names to try and get people to watch. Kind of like what Mixer did. Maybe have a little more success than Mixer, but that still is fundamentally a flawed approach to running a content delivery network. Cold ones at the ready. Let's talk about, though, before we get into any of this, why I use the numbers that I use. The big ratio that I look at is the ratio of hours watched versus hours streamed. Now, folks like Devin Nash, who's done data sets on this before and done a video with Harris Heller about there being literally too many Twitch streamers, which I was reacquainting myself with before coming on the air, if you want to call it that. So he actually had some numbers comparing people. I suppose it's perfectly fine and dandy to do that. But in the terms of just keeping an eye on the way things are going, I think hours is probably better than people in this respect. Even though there might be some wackiness in the numbers. Just watching the ratio in general can give me a better idea as to what's going on here. So, first off, the big issue with saying that hours doesn't include people is that an hour of watch time is at least one person watching you. The big thing that throws everything off is that computers have no idea what's going on in the offline world. Whatever's recording this data has no idea what's actually going on. And so on both sides of everything, streamers and people watching, there can be multiples. You can have multiple people watching the same stream because they're playing somebody's stream on the TV in their living room and they're sitting on the couch. And on the other side, streamers can do collabs. So if you're just dividing the total number of streamers by the total number of by average concurrence, it's fuzzy math. Number one, you're using an average number. Number two, for the concurrence side, number two, streamers can do collabs. So if you have 20,000 streamers on a platform, indigestion. If you have 20,000 streamers on a platform, but a lot of them are regularly collabing, so it's more like there's 15,000 streamers to watch, then that just gives you extra unnecessary headaches when going over the numbers, as opposed to the transaction between people watching and people streaming in terms of hours. I think hours is probably, even though it has its own issues too, I think hours is a better thing to keep an eye on. Because you don't necessarily get rid of the people when you look at the hours. You just leave the variability for multiples on either side of the broadcast. So 1 hour streamed is at least one streamer streaming for an hour. More if there's a collab, but at least one person streaming, so there's people in there. And then 1 hour watched is at least 1 hour of someone watching. So there's a person there too, if not more, because multiple people are watching on the same device. But you run into this. I mean, this is why YouTube is working on metrics to try and estimate the number of individuals watching a YouTube video. from things like monetized playbacks versus unique, viewers and whatnot. Because the number of views can be loaded and inflated by things like VPNs, Wi-Fi networks, multiple devices. And they're just, the thing is, and also you don't know the situation. Even if you have a fixed hardware ID that counts as a view, what if I happen to have something going on my phone, and then I just put it on my smart TV, load up a YouTube app, and watch on my smart TV? Am I one person or two according to the systems? See, this is the kind of stuff that YouTube would have to work on in AI to try and filter things down to the actual number of unique viewers. So, bottom line, the numbers are always going to be at least a little bit fuzzy. But I would rather compare hours than average concurrence versus total watch hours. Because I want, at least in this case, I have apples and apples. I have an hour, and there might be more people tied to those hours than others. But at least I have an hour, 1 equals 1, and I have one ratio to watch where the numbers won't be as weird because of things like collabs and other stuff, because it's just an exchange of hours. That's really the transaction that we're looking for here. What if, for example, you're a streamer, you're streaming to one concurrent viewer that consists of 3 people watching you on a smart TV, and they're all taking turns on the other person's account donoing to you. So you receive 3 times the donos from one person. They look like an oiler even though they're not. So it's not, sticking to just the hours is a perfectly valid way of watching all of this. The thing with this Stream Hatchet report, though, getting back to it, is that the Stream Hatchet report does not include hours streamed, it only includes hours watched. There's some other trends throughout the year as well that are mentioned, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez playing Among Us to nearly 500,000 concurrence and stuff. But yeah, 2020, wild year. So the report is actually linked. Let me just make sure it didn't disappear. Where's my edit button in my live control room? YouTube streaming has a bit of a problem with Teflon settings, where your settings don't stick. Okay, in the description is a link to the Twitter where Stream Hatchet actually posted what's going on. So if you want to see the report for yourself, I'm not showing it on screen because it's walled. They want your email for whatever reason. So I'm just going to go over stuff and just throw in my 2 cents on it. This probably will not be as long of a discussion as what I have planned for talking about Monolith 2. But let's just get to work on this here. Video Game Streaming Trends Report 2020 from Stream Hatchet, a subsidiary of Engine Media. So, hours watched up 69% in 2020 year over year versus 2019, 81%. So, a couple of polls mentioned on demographics, how many girl gamers are in there, how many girl stream watchers are in there, blah, blah, blah. How male dominated is the platforms, things like that. How are politicians using things? But the big thing we probably have to talk about, AOC playing Among Us, things like that. The big thing that we have to talk about, though, is just the increase in people that are getting into content creation, and this is something really important. Here's the thing. You may be upset about not growing on Twitch, and you may be upset about your YouTube videos not getting any views. But the truth of the matter is that we are more at the mercy of algorithms on both platforms than ever before. I keep an eye on the development of algorithm technology at Twitch, and some of the things they have, like recommended smaller communities, and I've seen them introduce me to some streamers here and there, but by and large, Twitch under Amazon has weaker technology than YouTube under Google. So it's really a catch-up game between purple catching up to red, not the other way around. But there are still algorithms on Twitch. The problem is, Twitch is so good at marketing. They have so many people that want to be Twitch streamers that they literally do not have enough support for everybody trying to be a Twitch streamer. They would have to balloon the living daylights out of their viewership without creating new streamers in the process in order to fix this. This is the ratio I've been watching, and I'm very seriously considering going into Excel and seeing how far I can backdate everything. How far back can I go with old reports from before 2020 to watch this ratio between hours streamed and hours watched? When did it become a consistent feature in the Streamlabs Stream Hatchet quarterlies? By the way, Streamlabs Stream Hatchet one still isn't out yet, but the Stream Hatchet by itself one is often a good preliminary. But the big thing is 2020 was massive for streaming. It was massive for YouTube videos as well. The lockdowns, the pandemics, but most importantly, more people essentially being forced to get into multimedia. If there ever was a year for multimedia becoming more mainstream, it was 2020. Whether you talk about somebody getting a laptop or a smartphone to run Zoom meetings or something, or maybe they decide they don't want their phone getting sapped for resources by their remote meetings, so they buy a dedicated device, or they actually get a setup like this. But more people are getting into this than ever before, and it's bringing down the cost, which will probably affect richer first world-ish countries like the US and whatnot first. I know one of the anomalies right now that people are saying a lot of stuff about is the Spanish audience on Twitch. And what's going on with the Latin American streamers? Well, let me tell you, let me just throw a few ideas out there. The difference between the haves and the have-nots is greater in countries that aren't as rich. So if you live in a rundown apartment somewhere in the backwoods of Brazil, you have a lot less chances of being able to develop something with decent production value that might actually be watched by people who are used to seeing a good production value and good equipment. You actually are going to have a harder time getting that to that threshold where you can put on a good show than somebody in a more developed country. Just as a matter of who's rich and who isn't. It's a first world problems thing, I know. But with everything that's been going on this year, we're seeing streaming equipment being sold in Walmart, for Pete's sake. Ring lights! A streamer thing for doing selfies and streaming and other stuff. Ring lights were a Black Friday doorbuster at Walmart in 2020. Ring lights! This is not niche stuff anymore. And in my case, I had a nasty surprise at Target last week. Target! I go to Target, I hang around the electronics section, I see a key light on sale. I'm like, Target is selling key lights. Photography, live streaming equipment, key lights. I check the price tag, $200. It's like, whoa. Hello, Target. One of the joking nicknames for Target is Walmart for the middle class, because they put in more, upscale, luxury-ish goods. And so one of the things that I see with Target, one of the things that I saw with Target earlier was, so Target has, am I distorting? I don't know. Let's move the mic a little further out and check the levels afterwards. Remembering all those fine details that I had dialed in earlier, but since redoing the computer, I got to figure it out again. I feel like I'm distorting. We'll figure it out. But yeah, Target. Target may have more surprises than Walmart because they target demographics with some more disposable income than Walmart. Just like Walmart targets people with more disposable income than, say, Dollar General or something. Or Family Dollar. That's the big one for, poor people market, so to speak. Used to have one around here, but it closed. What a pity. There's a bazillion Dollar Generals, though, so if I want to go to a dollar-ish store or Walmart, but smaller, I have choices. Even out here in the woods of Connecticut. So, Target has surprised me before. Aside from their Massimo supplier, whatever the private label brand was, cheap clothes, basically meant to rival the Walmart brand. And usually the Walmart polos lasted longer than the Target polos, so it's interesting. So yeah, anyways, there was one time I actually went to Target and I got surprised by a jacket that I thought looked cool. $170. Yeah, designer, high ticket brand, so to speak, amidst all the cheap stuff. Whoops. Glad I checked the price tag. Otherwise, it would have been sticker shock at the register. This is $170? No thanks. I'm not spending $170 on a jacket that I want to wear to work that's going to get beat up and, be exposed to the weather and everything. So yeah, Target, been surprised by them before, but a $200 key light in Target. I suppose the better example is the ring light that was a Black Friday doorbuster in Walmart. Ring lights. Streamer equipment. Yeah, ring light. Yeah, a ring light of all things. You know what? I think we should probably turn down the levels on this mic. I think I've probably been distorting a little. I think I used to have this at 75. It is a 75 for the game. Let's bring it down to 70 and use the things here to not cross over into the red. And we can bring things closer and just make sure that we stay in the yellow zone without hitting red. I have a compressor on this, so it'll seek to blunt some of that, but I should probably get a limiter as well for the plugins. We'll do that some other time. The bottom line is, though, weekly streaming hours, massive in 2020 compared to 2019. The pandemic had a lot to do with that, but because of what's going on with people being stuck home, doing remote learning, remote meetings, and Zoom stuff and whatnot, more people have had to get setups of some sort, whether it's a phone or whether it's a laptop or whether it's an actual setup like this. And I've seen a couple of people play around with streaming on YouTube as well, who normally do vlogs, that got the equipment to stream, and they got a webcam and stuff, and they did all of that. So what we have here is, really, what's going on here is you got more people getting involved in this that can give it a try, and so it's less of a niche thing, so to speak, than it was before. And I think the effects of this are going to linger long after the pandemic ends, because these kids that are not going to have snow days anymore because the school just switches to remote learning instead are going to grow up with this stuff. So there's going to be more people doing basic multimedia stuff than ever before. Bottom line, we're not going back to the old normal, ever. Vaccine, no more wearing masks. Yeah, we could probably do that, but we're not going back to the olden days. Everybody's going to be more of an AV geek than they ever were before because the technology went mainstream during this lockdown period and during the pandemic. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're upset about your channel not growing on YouTube or Twitch, it may not necessarily be your fault. The stuff that I'm concerned about with a talent inversion, too many people making stuff, not enough people watching stuff. We are more prone to that now than ever before. Because unless people start growing up faster among the adult population, we have a lot more people watching, and I think we're going to see that there's a big jump in streaming hours too when the report I'm looking for comes out. And most of it will be on Twitch, of course, but hey, the ruse is real. The marketing, the bag of goods, everything that Twitch sells, all those hopefuls that are trying to become a streamer is good. It is real, and it's effective. People don't do their homework, and they don't realize that it's all stacked over there against the individual small creator. Whereas on YouTube, you have a lot more options if you're a small creator, like making more videos, and they'll actually get seen. Imagine that. I want to do some experiments as well with YouTube versus Twitch on the upload side of things, just now that I'm a Twitch affiliate. I want to see what Twitch has been able to develop recently. Let's move on to the big slide. Hours watched, top Western streaming platforms. China has, just like with YouTube, China has streaming platforms of their own. And the thing with the Chinese platforms, of course, is they're behind the Great Firewall of China. So they're propped up by the government with the government's official blessing when other services are banned. So there are huge numbers, obviously, in the People's Republic of China that eclipse the Western platforms. But let's take a look at these because that's what's in the report. Talking a little too fast, too. I don't want people to have to slow me down to 80% just to understand me. So I only have hours watched. I do not have hours streamed, and that's the wild card here. So Twitch is still the biggest from what I'm seeing for Q4. But both Twitch and YouTube grew throughout the year with a little, Twitch had the dip in Q3. YouTube and Twitch both grew during the year, but Facebook has leveled out. That's where the numbers are going to be for hours watched. That's important that Facebook's growth has stalled because I think there's some very important systemic things going on Facebook that need to be resolved if they're to have any chance of being a solid competitor. Otherwise, the only thing they have going for them is that as technology becomes more of a thing, they don't have the stuffiness that Twitch has with the exclusivity. So people can just double stream and pick up both audiences. And if they're a Streamlabs Plus member, the premium service that Streamlabs offers, they can double stream straight out of Streamlabs OBS. Standard feature. Or you have Restream IO or something along those lines. But the bottom line is, there's not really a competition between Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook as much as it's a competition between Twitch and a combination of YouTube and Facebook, which is why I have a U-Book column in my Excel sheet for this kind of stuff. Now, during the year, Facebook did grow, but their growth has stalled. YouTube is the only competitor that has consistently grown. But technically, since you can do both at once with no repercussions, and be monetized on both at once, so you can cater to both audiences at once. If either of the two, if either red or blue grow, it's a good thing, as opposed to what purple is doing. Twitch is still the biggest streaming platform in terms of hours watched by a large margin. However, when you factor in the exclusivity and everything, and you also, more importantly, factor in the hours streamed, it is the worst place to go, because the illusion is still very, very real in terms of people becoming Twitch streamers. And here's the thing. How many people grinding away for Twitch affiliate, and as Twitch affiliates, they like their streaming income, but they don't think about, well, what if they made YouTube videos and streamed on YouTube and combined the two together in the revenue they got, plus membership fees and other stuff? I think that's the real competition here, is monetization on Twitch versus monetization on YouTube with somebody who both streams and makes videos. It took me a while to figure out why memberships are such a good idea, but now I understand it, and I think, yeah, that's huge. It's not only huge in terms of competing with Twitch, but it's also huge in terms of competing with Facebook. Because Facebook, unless you want to make a lot of videos on Facebook, get them passed around like content for people to laugh at as they scroll through their feeds, it's not really the sort of place where content lives. It's more a matter of where you might have a meme here and there. But that's for Facebook to figure out. They're the one who stalled during 2020 in terms of hours watched. They need to figure this out. But at least YouTube grew. So there's at least one rival that's getting somewhere. YouTube gaming is on the next slide. More than 10 billion hours of watch time for the year. Keep in mind, this is YouTube gaming. One of the types of streams that I've been posting a bit on Twitter to let everyone know they exist, and to get everybody to think a little differently about streaming, is wildlife streams. So there's a guy up in Maine. He buys oats and then puts them in giant feeding troughs and feeds the deer, and the channel memberships from his YouTube channel allow people to talk in chat because he has chat paywalled, and it pays for the deer feed, so you can keep streaming the deer, eating, and it's cute and like awe and that kind of stuff. He has night vision cameras going too, so even though deer are kind of nocturnal and stuff like that, it's a cute little thing. There's like several different cameras at this place up in Maine. You can switch between them. You have a skip button for the ads, so channel flipping is a little easier. But it's just nice and simple streaming of wildlife. There's some others too, like the ones powered by Explore, like the sheep barn cam and the others. There's the sheep barn cam, and there's a cow pasture cam, and there's also bird feeder cams and stuff going. So there's a ton of streaming on YouTube that isn't tied to a personality. Whereas Twitch has a massive emphasis on personality streamers. The household names on Twitch, like Ninja and whatnot, that's really Twitch's bread and butter. There is some of this types of streaming over on Twitch that's not as popular. And furthermore, somebody like the person doing all the feeding the deer cams can make videos of highlights and moments and stuff like that in the same ecosystem on YouTube. And that's part of the value of the channel membership, as opposed to my videos are on YouTube, my streaming's on Twitch. Which membership do you want to buy, or do you really think it's worth it to be both a Twitch subscriber and a YouTube member? I think that's one of the businessy type things that people are going to have to think about as YouTube gets more established as a streaming platform. And they clearly are. Growth every single quarter in 2020, and up to almost doubling its size from 1 billion to 1.9 billion hours watched from Q4 19 to Q4 20. Massive. And I like seeing a lot of red in these charts. YouTube also has gaming personalities like Laserbeam. They even have a Pokimane. They even have an answer to Pokimane in Valkyrae, who I still think Valkyrae is getting propped up by YouTube's algorithms. Yeah. Every platform needs people to help sell the platform, so to speak. And I think Valkyrae, as a signed partner, probably gets better treatment in the algorithm than all these big YouTubers I see streaming to barely any concurrence. So there's still some things, as usual, over in YouTube land. There's always technology to polish up, but at least there's technology. That's the biggie. Let's look at some of these bullet points on this slide. Massive growth in number of gaming creators, and the subscribers to those channels are up. Did Stream Hatchet mean members? Because that's the equivalent of Twitch subs over on YouTube. And also, by the way, if you're a gaming streamer, you can get channel memberships with far lower subscribers than a channel that doesn't have gaming stuff on it. That's probably the reason why I got it. Done enough gaming content to be considered enough of a gaming channel to get, the lower threshold. So I got to set those up. YouTube's partnerships team was highly active this year, signing notable streamers like Valkyrae and bringing major esports tournaments like Call of Duty League to audiences on the platform. Global outreach is key to YouTube Gaming's growth, with significant upticks in Spanish-speaking markets, just like Twitch, Brazil, and India. Hey, by the way, that's right, Brazil speaks Portuguese. I'm such an idiot. I've mixed that up before, too. In New England, there's a Portuguese community in eastern Massachusetts, and there's also Spanish-speaking communities in various areas in Connecticut. So, I've run into people that I thought were speaking Spanish that were actually speaking Portuguese. I was like, well, whoops, wow, I'm a moron. So, either way, just swap the countries I was talking about earlier. So, if you're living in some woodsy town in Guatemala, and the only internet you have is through your smartphone, again, the difference between the haves and the have-nots, I think, is going to be greater in less developed countries, so to speak. And so that's going to contribute to there being more successful streamers in other language groups like Spanish and Portuguese and whatnot. Unless you're talking about streamers actually in Spain, therefore EU. But in terms of language groups, I'm actually curious when there's going to be an English streamer who is going to switch, a very popular English streamer who's going to start doing Spanish streams to get involved in that market. Because I think we're just waiting for that right now. Maybe Pokimane should learn Spanish or something, I don't know. I think we're just waiting for an English streamer to do Spanish streams as well to get into the Spanish market on Twitch and YouTube. I think we're just waiting for that. It's gonna happen. And I think some of that too is that in those various parts of the world that speak Spanish, there's gonna be the differences in the standards of living are going to mean there's less competition, because you need to be more, the haves and the have-nots, and there's more of a difference between the two in terms of what they can do with streaming. Until that changes, of course. We know rising tides can lift all boats. So the closer people get to where America and Canada and Europe and whatnot is at, and most of East Asia and stuff, when more people get closer to that, and there's more money going around in general to where more people can afford the gear and to live in a decent looking place that'll look good on camera, that's when we'll start seeing this effect spread elsewhere. But for now, I think it's going to be mostly an English language thing. So people speak English all over the world. Yeah, thanks, Britain. Simply because of that, though, I think all the developed countries and whatnot where English is at least a second language will be part of this scene, and the reason why there's more competition in the English section than the Spanish section or elsewhere. But that's just conjecture. Don't have any numbers for any of that. It's just an educated guess. A hypothesis, as it's called in the world of science. Is Facebook Gaming the next big player in live streaming? Well, their numbers flatlined from Q3 to Q4. 1.02 billion for both for watch hours. I think they got to fix their systemic issues. That would tell me, of course, that the Sweetheart deal with Mixer shutting down didn't hardly work, and we knew it wouldn't work. People mostly went to Twitch. However little sense that made. And all those Mixer streamers made Twitch even worse than what it already was. So, anyways, I think YouTube's a better platform overall. You just have to be prepared to deal with YouTube's infamous technology issues. And then, of course, they get into top 10 games of the year, top 10 streamers of the year, which XQC has 148 million hours watched. But Nobrew with 87.5 is doing good for himself. Here's the thing, though. Twitch, just the fact that so many of these top streamers are on Twitch in terms of hours watched, just goes to show just how stacked Twitch is towards the big guys. You want to talk about institutionalized elitism on Twitch? Look at this slide that Stream Hatchet put out about top 10 streamers. Nobrew is the only YouTube streamer on there. And so in terms of hours watched to an individual streamer. Now, people are going to get the wrong idea. They're going to look at this and be like, oh, I can be that guy. Really? Really? Everything's going to be stacked against you. These people are riding the wave. If they ever screw up, they're going to crash hard. In some cases, I think they've gotten to the point where there's always critical mass to what they do. But the difference between haves and have-nots is way more pronounced on Twitch than it is on YouTube. So, top 5 female streamers of the year. Ginny was number 5 on that list. Valkyrae edged out Pokimane by only by 0.3 million. So 300,000 watch hours. So, again, I think Valkyrae would be even further along. I think Valkyrae would be even further along if she wasn't tied to Pokimane in any way. So there wasn't this crossover drama between the two channels. Then they get into stuff on advertising, mobile game streaming, hours watched grew 98%, etc. And so yeah, how's mobile doing for those people playing on their phones and streaming that? Esports events, just chatting, still doing well because it's basically the YouTube category on Twitch, although it is technologically restricted compared to more specific categories like talk shows and podcasts. There's the election day thing, in terms of hours watched and everything. There's sports streaming mentioned in this report and all kinds of other stuff, and then it gets to the end. But I think the big thing we have to remember with all of this is what's not here is hours streamed. So in terms of hours watched versus hours streamed, the transaction between the audience and the streamers, it's not represented in this report. So I eagerly await Q4 2020 from Streamlabs and Stream Hatchet. Last time, this took about a week between these two reports for the Streamlabs one to come out. And I think the Streamlabs one is going to have what I'm looking for here. But as we can see, Twitch, as we can see from the from the purple, red, blue graph on hours watched for the top Western streaming platforms in this report, Twitch grew from Q2 to Q4 after that, and from Q3 to Q4 after that dip in Q3. But the only platform that has consistently grown of the competitors was YouTube. Facebook kind of flattened out. Their growth stalled. We'll see what happens for Q1. It's important to remember that Facebook and YouTube are on the same side, the competitors. Unless YouTube decides to do stuffy exclusivity, which I hope they don't, then yeah, you actually have to stack the two bars together. As you can double stream without having to worry about exclusivity like on Twitch. And here's the thing we got to remember as we close. The big thing we have to remember with regards to streaming is that people who want to be streamers are showing that they've clearly taken influence from Twitch. So people have shown that they've taken influence from Twitch. If you think you can be a streamer and being a streamer is anything good, that's Twitch influence right there. If you look at how YouTube handles streaming, streaming is an extension of what you do in your videos. And everything combined together provides value for people that buy your channel memberships. So you want to do both. And in my case, 3 categories for 2021, excuse me. Put 2020 out of mind, darn it. It's going to take a while for me to get out of that habit. Videos, streams, and stuff from streams. What to do where, how much to do each one, and how to handle the streaming side of it. Those are the questions for 2021. So while it looks like I'm doing too much streaming now, part of what I need to do is get out of this Twitch mindset that overemphasizes streaming. There have been numerous times when I've streamed about a topic and I thought I would have been better off making a video for that. Because I could get things I could do things in more than one take and get the discussion exactly the way I want it. I can tell you that with this problem that I have with phantom syllables with this camera that I bought, as well as MP4 encoding in general, with these problems I've been having with phantom syllables in my videos, it's more important for me to solve the problem with my videos than it is for me to continue working on my streams. Streams are in better shape than the videos are right now, but I'm not going to leave videos by the side of the road. I could do everything based on streaming if I really wanted to. There are YouTubers that are perfectly fine doing that. But I'm not going to. Crafted videos from scratch that can be perfected and worked on a lot and iterated and made better are far better for your audience than just winging it all the time. And I think, again, the Twitch Bowl effect and the success of Twitch's marketing as a streaming platform, getting people thinking about streaming a certain way. More people have to wake up to what's going on with streaming versus videos and get out of the habits that they've picked up because of that, myself included. I tried Twitch last year, but I still think I can do better with YouTube's approach to things. that's our show. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.